Have you ever wondered why some people seem to understand attraction without anyone saying a single word? Why one person notices the small signs while another completely misses them? The truth is that human behavior often speaks before our words ever do. Many emotional signals happen silently through body language, gestures, and the small movements we make without even realizing it. And when it comes to attraction, these subtle behaviors can reveal more than a direct conversation ever could. A woman usually will not simply walk up to you and say, "I'm attracted to you. I want you to make a move." That is rarely how human connection develops. Instead, attraction often appears through small, almost unconscious behaviors. She may touch something, adjust something, or make a small movement that seems meaningless at first. But if you understand what those signals mean, you may notice a completely different side of the interaction. A study published in the Journal of Nonverbal Behavior suggested that a large portion of human emotional communication happens without spoken words. That means the most important message someone is sending is not always coming from their voice. Sometimes, it comes through their expressions, posture, and especially their hands. Unfortunately, many people never learn how to understand this language. So today, I want to explain these behaviors in a clear and simple way. Not as a game or a trick, but as a better understanding of human psychology and communication. Many people believe women are impossible to read, but the reality is much more interesting. People often reveal their feelings through small habits, movements, and reactions that happen naturally. The problem is not that these signals are impossible to understand. The problem is that most people were never taught how to notice them. What we are going to discuss today is based on observations from behavioral psychology, communication studies, and research into human interaction. These are not magical signs that guarantee attraction every single time. Context matters, personality matters, the situation matters, but when several of these behaviors appear together, they can give you a better understanding of what is happening in the interaction. And there is one particular sign near the end that surprises many people, because it does not look like attraction at first. In fact, many men misunderstand it completely. They assume it means boredom or disinterest, when in some situations it can mean the exact opposite. So stay until the end, because understanding that final signal may completely change the way you view conversations and connections. Let's begin with one of the most commonly noticed behaviors, hair touching. When a woman is attracted to someone, she may start touching her hair more frequently during the conversation. Now, many people already know this one, but the important detail is understanding the difference between a normal adjustment and a repeated unconscious behavior. For example, if someone moves their hair because the wind is bothering them, or because it is simply in their face, that does not necessarily mean anything. That is just a normal grooming action. But when the behavior repeats several times while she is engaged with you, it can indicate something different. Twisting a strand around her finger, moving her hair from one side to another, brushing it back, or adjusting it while maintaining eye contact may happen because the brain is responding to emotional stimulation. Researchers who study nonverbal communication have observed that attraction can increase nervous energy. When people feel excitement, curiosity, or nervousness around someone, the body often looks for small physical ways to release that energy. The hands become one of the easiest places where that energy appears, and hair is one of the most noticeable things a person can adjust. The key is not one single movement, it is the pattern. If she touches her hair once, there is no reason to immediately assume anything. But if she keeps returning to that behavior while talking with you, while smiling, while staying engaged in the conversation, then it becomes a more meaningful signal. Sometimes, the body reveals emotions before the person even consciously recognizes them. And this connects to another subtle behavior that many people overlook, touching the neck. The neck is one of the more vulnerable areas of the body. It is a sensitive region, and people often touch it during moments of emotional reaction, nervousness, or increased awareness. When someone lightly touches their neck, adjusts their collar, or runs their fingers near their collarbone during a conversation, it can sometimes happen because they feel a heightened level of awareness around the other person. From a psychological perspective, Exposing or drawing attention to vulnerable areas has long been connected with trust and comfort. It can happen when someone feels relaxed enough to lower their guard. And there is an interesting thing about this behavior from a personal perspective. Many people do not even realize they are doing it until after the conversation is over. That is what makes body language so fascinating. The body often reacts naturally before the conscious mind has time to analyze what is happening. So if you notice this type of behavior, do not immediately jump to conclusions. Instead, look at the complete picture. Is there eye contact? Is there engagement? Is there genuine interest in the conversation? Because one signal alone rarely tells the entire story. Another subtle sign involves the lips. When a woman touches her lips, gently presses them together, bites her lower lip, or applies lip balm while maintaining eye contact, it can sometimes draw attention to one of the most expressive parts of the face. The lips are a major part of human communication. They show emotion, interest, hesitation, and reaction. Because of that, people naturally notice them during social interactions. Research using eye tracking technology has shown that people often pay close attention to facial features, including the lips, when reading expressions and attraction. So when someone touches their lips during a conversation, it may be more than just a random movement. It could be a subconscious way of expressing awareness, nervousness, or interest. Again, context is everything. A single action does not prove attraction, but repeated behaviors combined with other positive signs can reveal a deeper level of engagement. And the next sign is one that many people completely overlook, even though it can be one of the clearest indicators of emotional response. It involves something many people wear every day: jewelry. When someone starts playing with their necklace, spinning a ring, adjusting an earring, or touching jewelry during a conversation, it may seem like a simple habit. But sometimes there is a deeper reason behind it. Psychologists often describe these types of movements as self-soothing behaviors. When people experience excitement, nervousness, or emotional stimulation, they may naturally use small repetitive actions to calm themselves. The hands need something to do, and jewelry becomes an easy object to focus on. This does not mean every person who touches a necklace is interested. Many people do it out of habit. But when it happens specifically during a meaningful interaction, especially alongside other signs of engagement, it can suggest that the person is experiencing some emotional reaction. The body has many ways of expressing what the mind is feeling. And understanding those signals is not about trying to manipulate anyone. It is about becoming more aware of human communication and learning how people express themselves beyond words. Now we move from simple self-touching behaviors into something much more direct, and this is where the signals become harder to ignore. Physical contact between two people is a powerful form of communication. A small touch may seem insignificant, but from a psychological perspective, it can carry a lot of meaning depending on the situation. If a woman reaches out and touches your arm, your shoulder, or your hand while you are having a conversation, she is crossing a social boundary that many people do not cross with just anyone. Touch creates a feeling of connection, and because of that, people are usually selective about when and with whom they use it. Researchers studying human interaction have found that brief, appropriate physical contact can increase feelings of warmth, trust, and connection between two people. In other words, a simple touch can make someone feel more comfortable and emotionally connected. But the important thing is understanding the context. A person may touch someone's arm because they are naturally expressive, because they are laughing, or because they are simply comfortable. So again, one single action is not enough to create a conclusion. The meaning comes from the combination of behaviors. For example, if she touches your arm while also maintaining strong eye contact, smiling genuinely, staying engaged in the conversation, and looking for reasons to continue interacting with you, then that touch becomes much more meaningful. Many people misunderstand these moments because they become nervous and freeze. They do not react, they ignore it, or they act as if nothing happened. But from the other person's perspective, a lack of response can feel like a missed connection. Imagine reaching out to someone emotionally. even in a small way, and receiving absolutely nothing back. It can feel like sending a message and getting silence in return. So if someone gives you a positive signal, the best response is not to panic or overreact. It is simply to acknowledge the moment. Smile. Stay relaxed. Continue the conversation naturally. Confidence is not about forcing a situation. It is about being present enough to recognize what is happening. Another interesting behavior appears when people are sitting across from each other, especially in places like restaurants, cafes, or social settings. Pay attention to what someone does with objects around them. For example, a person may slowly move their fingers around the edge of a glass, adjust a cup, play with a straw, or repeatedly touch an object while maintaining eye contact. This type of behavior is often connected with emotional energy. When someone feels nervous, excited, or strongly focused on another person, that energy has to go somewhere. Sometimes, instead of touching the other person directly, the body transfers that movement into an object nearby. The object becomes a temporary outlet for the emotions they are experiencing. Behavior experts who study nonverbal communication have discussed how object manipulation during conversations can sometimes reflect a person's level of emotional involvement. Think about it this way. When someone is completely uninterested, they usually disconnect. Their attention drifts. They become distracted by their phone, their surroundings, or anything else around them. But when someone is emotionally engaged, they often become more physically involved in the moment. Their hands move more. Their expressions become stronger. Their attention stays focused. And those small details can reveal what is happening beneath the surface. Another signal that many people miss is adjusting clothing. When a woman starts fixing her shirt, smoothing her clothes, adjusting her sleeves, or making sure everything looks right while interacting with someone, it may simply seem like normal behavior. And sometimes it is. Everyone adjusts their clothing throughout the day. But there is an important difference between normal grooming and targeted preparation. If someone was already fixing their appearance before seeing you, that is just routine. But if they notice you, begin talking with you, and then suddenly become more aware of their appearance, it can indicate that your presence has changed their level of self-awareness. Human beings naturally want to present their best side when they are around someone whose opinion matters to them. This is not only true in romantic situations. People do this when meeting someone important, attending an interview, or entering a situation where they want to make a good impression. But when it happens during a personal interaction, it can show that the person cares about how they are being perceived. Evolutionary psychologists have studied similar behaviors in humans and animals. Many species display grooming or preparation behaviors before social bonding or attraction. Humans do something similar, although in a much more complex way. We adjust. We prepare. We try to present ourselves in the best possible way. The reason this matters is because attraction is not always shown through obvious actions. Sometimes it appears through small moments where someone becomes more aware of themselves around another person. And now we come to the sign that many men misunderstand the most. At the beginning, I mentioned there was one behavior that often gets interpreted incorrectly. Many people assume it means boredom, but sometimes it can actually mean comfort, interest, and emotional involvement. This happens when a woman rests her chin on her hand, supports her face, or gently touches her cheek while listening to someone speak. A lot of people see this and immediately think, she looks tired, or she is not interested in the conversation. But that interpretation is not always accurate. In many situations, facial framing can be a sign of engagement. When someone places their hand near their face, they may be naturally highlighting their expressions. Their eyes, their smile, and their reactions become more noticeable. It creates a softer, more open appearance. Psychologists who study social behavior have observed that facial self-touching can appear frequently during moments of emotional attention and connection. The reason it happens is simple. When someone feels comfortable, they allow themselves to relax. They stop controlling every movement. They become more natural. And those natural behaviors can reveal a lot. Imagine a conversation where someone is sitting across from you, resting their chin in their hand, maintaining eye contact, smiling, and listening carefully while you speak. Many people might misread that moment. They may assume the person is bored. But the reality could be completely different. They may actually be fully engaged. They may be enjoying your presence. They may simply feel comfortable enough to relax around you. This is why reading body language requires more than just memorizing signs. It requires understanding the full situation. A gesture by itself is only a piece of information. The real message comes from the combination of everything happening at the same time. The eyes, the tone, the distance, the posture, the hands. All of these small details work together to create the bigger picture. And once you start noticing these patterns, you begin to understand something important about human communication. Words are only one part of the conversation. Many times, the body speaks first. Once you begin paying attention to body language, something interesting starts to happen. You realize that attraction is rarely communicated through one dramatic moment. Instead, it develops through a series of small, consistent behaviors that naturally build on one another. That is why experienced psychologists and behavioral researchers always encourage people to observe patterns instead of focusing on isolated actions. One gesture can be accidental. Two or three may still be coincidence. But when several positive signals appear together within the same interaction, they begin to paint a much clearer picture. Think about everything we've discussed so far. Hair touching, gentle movements around the neck, drawing attention to the lips, playing with jewelry, initiating light physical contact, absent-mindedly interacting with nearby objects, adjusting clothing, and naturally framing the face. None of these behaviors alone can confirm attraction. But when multiple signals happen together, while someone is giving you their full attention, maintaining comfortable eye contact, smiling sincerely, and actively participating in the conversation, the chances that genuine interest is present become much stronger. One of the biggest mistakes people make is looking for certainty in a single action. Human behavior simply doesn't work that way. Every individual has unique habits, different personalities, and different comfort levels. Someone who is naturally outgoing may use more physical gestures than someone who is quiet or reserved. Cultural background, environment, confidence level, and even stress can influence body language. That is why context is always your greatest tool when interpreting nonverbal communication. Behavioral science consistently reminds us that the human brain processes enormous amounts of information without conscious awareness. Long before we choose our words, our nervous system has already begun responding to the people around us. Our pupils may change, our posture shifts, our breathing adjusts, our facial expressions soften, and our hands begin making small movements that often happen automatically. These reactions are not carefully planned. In many cases, they are simply natural responses to emotion. This is exactly why nonverbal communication fascinates researchers. The body often reveals emotional states that people themselves have not fully recognized. Someone may honestly believe they are acting completely normal, while an outside observer trained in behavioral psychology notices dozens of subtle changes taking place throughout the conversation. None of these movements are forced. They simply happen because the nervous system is responding in real time. That brings us to another important point. Attraction should never be viewed as a collection of tricks or hidden codes. It is not about memorizing a checklist and assuming every person fits into the same pattern. Instead, these observations help you become more aware, more patient, and more emotionally intelligent. The goal is not to manipulate someone's emotions. The goal is to better understand genuine human connection. Many people become so focused on what they are going to say next that they completely miss what the other person is communicating right in front of them. While they are mentally rehearsing their next sentence, they fail to notice the smile that lingers a little longer, the repeated eye contact, the relaxed posture, or the comfortable silence that often says much more than words ever could. Comfort itself is one of the strongest indicators that a conversation is going well. When someone feels safe, accepted, and genuinely interested, their body begins to relax. Their shoulders lower, their expressions become softer, their movements become more natural. They stop monitoring every little action because they no longer feel the need to protect themselves emotionally. That sense of comfort is incredibly valuable because attraction rarely grows in an environment filled with anxiety or pressure. Genuine connection develops when two people feel free to be themselves. This is why forcing interactions almost never works. Confidence is not about dominating a conversation or trying to impress someone every second. Real confidence comes from listening carefully, staying present, and allowing the conversation to develop naturally. There is another reason these subtle signals matter. They remind us that communication is always happening in both directions. While you are observing someone else's body language, they are also observing yours. They notice whether you maintain comfortable eye contact, whether you appear relaxed, whether you genuinely listen instead of waiting for your turn to speak, and whether your responses feel authentic. Human interaction is a constant exchange of verbal and nonverbal information. Researchers studying interpersonal communication often describe this as synchronization. During positive conversations, people naturally begin mirroring each other's behaviors without realizing it. One person leans forward, and the other does the same. One smiles, and the smile is returned. Speech patterns become similar. Even breathing rhythms can gradually become more aligned. These unconscious adjustments help create feelings of familiarity and trust. This is why paying attention is far more valuable than trying to perform. Many people believe attraction depends on saying the perfect line or using some clever technique. In reality, the strongest connections usually grow because both people feel seen, heard, and understood. The small details matter because they reveal emotional comfort, not because they serve as secret shortcuts. As you continue observing these interactions, you may notice that genuine attraction rarely appears rushed. It unfolds gradually through repeated moments of engagement. A conversation lasts longer than expected. Smiles become more frequent. Eye contact feels effortless instead of forced. Personal space naturally becomes smaller as both people grow more comfortable with one another. These changes happen step by step, creating a foundation of mutual interest rather than relying on dramatic gestures. Understanding this process changes the way you approach conversations. Instead of constantly asking yourself whether someone likes you, you begin focusing on whether both people are enjoying the interaction. That shift in mindset removes unnecessary pressure and allows genuine chemistry to develop naturally. And interestingly, people often become more attractive when they stop chasing validation and start becoming fully present in the moment. The body has always had its own language. Long before humans developed complex speech, survival depended on reading expressions, movements, and intentions. Even today, that ancient system remains active beneath every conversation we have. Our brains continue processing these subtle cues automatically, often without conscious awareness. The more you understand that silent language, the better you become at recognizing authentic emotional connection, not by making assumptions, but by seeing the complete picture that unfolds right in front of you. One of the most valuable lessons you can take from all of this is that attraction is not something you should try to force, predict, or manufacture. It is something you learn to recognize through patience, observation, and genuine interaction. The more you understand human behavior, the less you rely on guesswork. Instead of searching for one dramatic sign, you begin noticing the consistent patterns that naturally develop when two people enjoy being around each other. This is where many people make an important mistake. They become so focused on decoding every little movement that they forget to simply enjoy the conversation. They analyze every smile, every glance, every gesture, hoping to find immediate confirmation that someone is interested. But healthy communication doesn't work that way. Body language is meant to support the conversation, not replace it. The goal is never to overanalyze every movement. The goal is to become more aware of the overall experience you're sharing with another person. Remember, every individual expresses themselves differently. Some women naturally use their hands while speaking. Others maintain strong eye contact with almost everyone they meet. Some are physically expressive because that's simply part of their personality, while others are much more reserved even when they genuinely like someone. This is exactly why behavioral experts emphasize clusters of signals instead of isolated behaviors. When several positive cues appear together, especially over multiple interactions, they become much more meaningful than any single action by itself. Think about the signals we've covered. A woman repeatedly playing with her hair while smiling at you, gently touching her neck or collarbone as the conversation flows, drawing attention to her lips without realizing it, fidgeting with her necklace or ring because nervous excitement has increased her physical energy, finding natural reasons to touch your arm or shoulder during conversation, running her fingers along the edge of a glass while maintaining eye contact, adjusting her clothing after noticing your presence, resting her chin in her hand while looking at you with genuine interest. Separately, each of these behaviors may mean very little. Together, they can tell a much richer story. But here's something even more important than recognizing attraction: knowing how to respond. When you notice positive body language, the answer is not to rush things or assume that everything is guaranteed. Instead, respond with the same calm confidence that created the comfortable interaction in the first place. Continue listening, ask thoughtful questions, maintain natural eye contact, smile when it feels genuine. Allow the conversation to develop instead of trying to force it toward a specific outcome. People often underestimate how attractive emotional presence can be. In a world where many conversations are distracted by phones, constant interruptions, and divided attention, someone who truly listens stands out immediately. Genuine attention communicates respect. It tells the other person that they matter, that you're interested in understanding them rather than simply waiting for your turn to speak. This is supported by research in social psychology, which consistently shows that people tend to feel more connected to individuals who make them feel heard and understood. Attraction isn't built only on appearance. It grows through comfort, trust, shared experiences, and emotional safety. Those qualities cannot be faked. They develop naturally when both people feel relaxed enough to be themselves. Another important point is respecting boundaries. Positive body language should never be treated as permission to ignore someone's comfort level. Attraction is always a two-way interaction. Even if someone appears interested, every step forward should still be guided by mutual respect and clear communication. Confidence is never about pushing past hesitation. True confidence includes recognizing when someone is comfortable, when they need space, and when it's appropriate to simply enjoy the conversation without expecting anything more. This balanced approach creates healthier relationships from the very beginning. Instead of chasing signals, you begin building trust. Instead of trying to impress someone with rehearsed lines or exaggerated confidence, you create an environment where authentic connection has room to grow. Ironically, that relaxed mindset often leads to stronger chemistry, because neither person feels pressured to perform. There is also something fascinating about how the brain responds during positive social interactions. When two people genuinely enjoy each other's company, they often begin matching each other's emotional rhythm. Their smiles become more frequent. Their laughter feels more natural. Pauses in the conversation become comfortable instead of awkward. Even silence no longer feels uncomfortable because both people feel secure enough simply sharing the moment. These are the interactions that people remember. Not because someone said the perfect sentence, but because they felt comfortable, respected, and emotionally connected. Those feelings leave a much stronger impression than any clever pickup line ever could. So, the next time you find yourself talking with someone, don't focus only on the words being spoken. Notice the overall picture. Observe the eye contact, the posture, the expressions, the small unconscious gestures, and the energy of the conversation itself. Is she leaning into the interaction? Is she finding reasons to stay engaged? Does the conversation flow naturally without feeling forced? These broader patterns provide far more useful information than obsessing over a single movement. By understanding the silent language of body language, you become a better communicator as well. You learn to recognize not only attraction, but also comfort, confidence, nervousness, curiosity, and trust. Those skills improve every relationship in your life, whether romantic, professional, or personal. And that leads us to one final idea that ties everything together. Recognizing attraction is only the beginning. The real challenge isn't noticing the signals. It's understanding what someone is quietly hoping you'll do next, and that is where most people either create a meaningful connection or unintentionally let the opportunity slip away. At the end of the day, every signal we've talked about shares one thing in common. None of them rely on spoken words, not a single one. And that is exactly why so many men overlook them. Most of us are taught to pay attention only to what people say. But human communication has always been much bigger than language alone. Long before a sentence is spoken, the body has already started telling its own story through posture, movement, facial expressions, and unconscious gestures. A woman may tell you she's simply being friendly, or she may not openly express how she feels at all. Yet her body can reveal subtle clues that words never fully communicate. The way she naturally plays with her hair, lightly touches her neck, draws attention to her lips, adjusts her necklace, rests her hand on your arm, or relaxes enough to frame her face while listening to you, can all become part of a much larger picture. These behaviors should never be viewed as guarantees, but when they appear together in the right context, they can help you understand that there may be genuine interest developing beneath the surface. The real value of this knowledge is not learning how to manipulate people or searching for hidden shortcuts. Its purpose is much more meaningful than that. It teaches you to become more observant, more patient, and more emotionally aware. Instead of making assumptions, you learn to pay attention. Instead of forcing conversations, you begin responding naturally to the energy that already exists between two people. The next time you find yourself having a conversation with a woman, slow down and truly observe the interaction. Notice whether she seems relaxed in your presence. Pay attention to whether she maintains comfortable eye contact, smiles sincerely, mirrors your body language, or displays several of the subtle behaviors we've discussed today. Don't rush to conclusions based on one gesture. Instead, look for consistent patterns that develop throughout the conversation. And if you recognize those patterns, don't let the moment pass by simply because you're overthinking every detail. Respond with confidence, kindness, and respect. Continue the conversation. Show genuine interest in what she has to say. Listen carefully. Smile naturally. If the connection is mutual, those small moments of attention often become the foundation for something much deeper. Remember, attraction is rarely built through perfect words or rehearsed lines. More often, it grows because two people feel comfortable enough to be themselves. It develops through trust, shared attention, mutual respect, and the quiet understanding that both people enjoy being together. Those qualities cannot be faked, and they cannot be replaced by memorizing techniques. They come from authentic communication. Once you begin understanding body language in this way, you'll realize that every conversation contains two different dialogues. One happens through words. The other happens silently through expressions, gestures, posture, and movement. The people who recognize both are usually the ones who build stronger, healthier, and more meaningful relationships because they understand not only what is being said, but also what is being felt. So don't make the mistake of ignoring the silent conversation happening right in front of you. Learn to recognize it, learn to respect it, and most importantly, learn to respond to it with maturity and emotional intelligence. Sometimes, the smallest gesture can say more than an entire conversation ever could. Now that you understand how attraction is often communicated through subtle touch and unconscious body language, there is another side of this subject that deserves just as much attention. Recognizing interest is only the first step. What truly matters is knowing how to respond in a way that feels natural, respectful, and confident. That's exactly what we'll explore in the next video. We'll discuss the behaviors and actions that many women genuinely appreciate but rarely talk about openly. These aren't manipulation techniques or scripted lines. They're simple habits that create trust, strengthen attraction, and help meaningful connections develop naturally. If today's discussion helped you see body language from a completely different perspective, then you won't want to miss what's coming next. It will connect everything we've covered today and show you how to move from recognizing attraction to building genuine chemistry. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest insights into psychology, relationships, and human behavior. I'll see you in the next video.